Hey guys, what's going on? We've got a John Deere 470G excavator that my customer had called me yesterday, and they said the machine was slow swing, left and right both ways, and the left track was slow, considerably slower than the other functions. So I came out yesterday and started with the basics, obviously checking hydraulic tank, oil, everything, just doing a physical walk around the machine, make sure there's nothing obvious, and didn't find anything obvious, and also check fuses right away. It's the first thing. Doesn't matter what the issue is, I think, whether it could be electrical or hydraulic, checking fuses is the first thing to do on an issue. It could be an electrical issue as well. So next thing was to verify the complaint, run the machine, and it does in fact swing very slow, and if you track it forward, the one track is much slower than the other. Even with the track raised off the ground and running it, it still was very slow. So you, in these John Deeres, you can go in the monitor and you can access service menu, and you can access all of your pilot pressures. You can check pump delivery pressure, pump 1, pump 2, and the first thing I did was I checked the pilot pressures for all the circuits. Anything slow in hydraulics is usually related to flow, but it's good to check that you have good pilot pressure. So if you didn't have enough pilot pressure, you wouldn't be pushing that spool in the control valve enough to open. So here is I wrote it all down, kind of messy writing. So stick out, sorry, that's pump delivery pressure. Here's pilot pressure. So boom up and boom down is the same. Right around that, I think it's about 550 psi, 540 psi. Stick in, stick out, same thing. Swing left and right, which is where we have an issue, running the same pilot pressure. So we know that we have good pilot pressure acting on the spool in the control valve. Travel, same thing. Travel right, travel left, we got good pilot pressure. Nothing wrong there. Bucket curl in, pilot sensor, it's not reading. Not really connected to the issue we have. Bucket curl out, running the same pilot. There was no issue with bucket curl in function. I noticed the boom and stick, they seem a little slower than they should be, and it could be related to the issue that we're having. So I'm curious to find out. I read so then I went to pump delivery pressure, and again, you can do this all in the access menu, service menu. Stick out, pump 1, pump 2 is 4,700 psi on relief, which is good. Stick in, same thing, 4,700 psi. Bucket curl in. Just when you run the bucket is pump 1. Pump 2 is not working. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be combined flow. I'll have to look in Service Advisor. I would assume it should be. 4,700 psi, same as the others. Bucket curl out is running combined flow, pump 1 and 2, and it hits relief at 4,700. Boom up is 5,000 psi, and boom down about the same. Alright, so we just fired the machine up to let it warm up, and I'll show you the symptoms, the slow swing and slow track as well, so you guys can see for yourself. Okay, so there I showed the symptom. When I was swinging there, that was the joystick all the way over. That's as fast as it would swing, which is pretty slow. Same with the left track. That was as much as I could get out of it. So another thing about this machine, when you access service menu, you can check for codes, and this machine had a code. It had a code for pump number 2, control valve solenoid, current low, sorry. Usually it could be an open circuit, shorted to ground. Anyway, something's going on with the wiring or the solenoid valve. So solenoid valves are mounted on your pump controllers on the hydraulic pump. There's 2 of them, one for pump 1 and one for pump 2. And one thing that I think we should do is check these solenoid valves and even swap them, because to me pump 1 is working. When you activate boom, stick, or bucket, pump 1 is stroking properly and providing the flow. Pump 2, I don't think it's, if we've got a code for that, then I don't think that swash plate's going to be getting moved to provide the flow that it needs, which would explain swing and track on their own, which would explain why they're slow. Not they work, but they're slow. So what we're going to do is swap the solenoid valves from pump 1 and pump 2, and we're going to check them, see what the resistance is on the coil, and check that, see if they're the same, and compare them to the specification in the manual. So if you're in a John Deere, this style, G series, D's are a little bit different, but to access service menu, you hold down button 9 and hold the dial, and then you scroll to service menu. And once you're in service menu, you can go either to monitoring or troubleshooting. We'll go to troubleshooting. So we still have the code The other one should clear because I was messing with it yesterday. Plugged it back in. So we still have an active code for pump number 2. That's the 11950-04. So that's how you get into the monitor. Now this solenoid valve, here's your hydraulic pumps. The solenoid valves are back here on top of the pump regulators, and what I've already done, we'll get into that. So pump 2 is back here. This is the pump that we seem to be having issues with. Pump 1 is here, which seems to be working fine. Now in some models, the newer G series, I think the fan pump here has a solenoid valve to which you can take your pump control and put it on the fan pump, and when you run your lever, your joystick, you should hear your fan pump motor wind up, and you know that your control side's working properly. But this machine, you can't. So what I went ahead and did was I unplugged the solenoids, and you check for resistance on the coil on the solenoid valve, and they both were reading the same specification. The spec is 17 to 20 ohms, and both these solenoid valves are reading the same. I went ahead and I swapped them anyway from pump 2 to pump 1, and still no different, still had the same active fault. So next procedure is check the wiring harness for any short to ground or just an open circuit. So what you do there is you unplug the harness, and this harness runs through the machine under some panels. It's a bit of a disaster. And they run up to the front to the main controller and behind the seat. So the main controller's back here where all those plugs are. Sorry, down there where all those plugs are. So you look in the service advisor and you find the schematic, and I check for continuity from the main controller harness right to the pump control valve solenoid, and I was reading continuity, but I decided to run overlay wires anyway just in case, to make sure that we have good wiring regardless if it reads continuity or not. And plug it in, same thing, still has the fault code, won't go away. So it's still showing an open circuit and not controlling the pump. So the next thing I did to make sure that it wasn't a hydraulic issue or going down the wrong path was I moved pump number 2 wiring to pump number 1, which was working, and I brought number 1 to pump number 2, and by that I should be able to see my swing and track speed up. So when I had them swapped, running the machine, when I was swinging and you use a boom function, which then sends power to pump 1, but it was on pump 2. When it sent power, it controlled the swash plate and stroked the pump, and swing and track sped up to where it should be. So I know that hydraulically the pumps are okay. That we're into an electrical issue, or even worse, the controller itself. I'm at the point of I've run new wiring from the controller, but the next thing to check is powers and grounds at the controller. Make sure I have all powers and grounds where they need to be and all the plugs. And if I do, then I'm going to deem this a bad controller issue, and we'll have to get a controller for this machine. Okay, so what I've done now is, it looks like a bit of a wiring mess, but I took pump number 2 control and I put it on pump 1 on the solenoid valve, and I've extended the wiring for pump number 1, which is working properly, the control side, and I put it on pump number 2, which is the pump that supplies the flow for swing in the track. By doing this, I'm going to eliminate the hydraulic side of it. When I'm running the machine and I'm swinging, if I grab a boom function, which is going to then control this swash plate and cause it to angle and provide more flow, then my swing should speed up and be pretty obvious. So just by doing that, swapping pump 2 with pump 1, if you notice when I was grabbing the boom function on swing, the swing would speed up. So when I'm using a boom, it's basically controlling that solenoid valve and therefore angling your swash plate to provide more flow, and that's why the swing speeds up. And the track would too. I had tested that yesterday. So we know hydraulically everything is working on the machine. It's just an electrical issue, which running overlay wires from the controller eliminates the harness. We're into a controller issue, it seems like. Well, I went ahead and pulled the controller out. I checked the powers and grounds on the plugs where they were being supplied. Everything seems okay. It's definitely seeming like a controller issue. pull this cover off. Not that I may or may not find anything wrong with it, but it's worth looking into anyway at this point. So I'm not seeing anything jump out at me on the circuit board other than, where is it? Oh, this piece here. Kind of discolored compared to the other ones. If that was the driver for that, maybe it was the issue. Maybe it could be an issue. Alright guys, this is the John Deere 470 that I had originally diagnosed back in the winter. I had diagnosed it for slow swing, one of the tracks was slow, and diagnosing led me to a controller issue, and it took the customer about three or 4 weeks to get a controller, and by that time I was just too busy to get the camera and kind of had forgot about it. But 4 months later, I was doing a job here and I thought I'd finish the video up after putting the controller in. So we'll fire the excavator up and see how it performs now after putting the new controller in. That was the fix. So we're gonna fire this machine up, let it warm up, and let's run it. I'll show you guys how it's supposed to work. for your information, it is Sunday and I'm in not work clothes, including Burke's out here. We're going to the beach with my family and thought it was close by. It's only about 10 minutes from here, so I thought I'd stop by the site and run the machine and show you guys how it's fixed. So as you guys can see, the excavator's a lot faster in hydraulic speed. Having your boom and bucket, you got combined flow now. Those hydraulics definitely sped up for boom and stick, and the swing, obviously that was the main issue, the swing and the weak track. So I just wanted to show you guys after how the machine performs after putting a new controller in and the issue we were having. So clearly the machine's been doing quite a bit of work around here, smashing trees up and piling trees, and I would say she's been working good. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and I hope to make some more videos for you guys of equipment repair. And subscribe and like the video, and comment what you think. Thank you. Alright, here's a 245G excavator. I thought I'd put it in the video as long, with this 470 that's over, it's in the far end there. I was just up at this machine Friday night and somebody had looked at it, and one of their mechanics wasn't sure what was going on with it. So what was happening was the machine was derated, wouldn't do a regen on its own, and even if the operator tried to manually regen it with the switch, it would just take itself out of it. Wouldn't even start it, and so that's why I got called up. So the issue it was having, so the code on the monitor, first thing you check the monitor, and the code it has was 11408-04, and exhaust after treatment solenoid valve feedback current low. And when I read that, honestly I wasn't familiar with what that was, or the component even, for an after treatment system. But reading on Service Advisor, I found the component and the description on how to diagnose it, and we went through the checks. So the component was over in here in this compartment on this side. We don't need that. And it's down, I think the sun, we got it's down here anyway, and it has some lines running to it. Looks like pilot lines. And basically, from my understanding, what it does is when it wants to do a regen, that valve opens up and it controls the pump and puts a load on the pump, about 1500 psi at all times during the regen. I'm assuming it's putting a load on the engine to help build heat as it's doing its cylinder fuel injection, and to raise up the temps to do a regen. So what it ended up being was, I checked the wiring from the plugs down here. Open this door again. So there's a couple plugs, hard to see because of the sun. There's two solenoid valves there, two plugs, and you unplug them and you can swap them one to the other. And if your code stays the same on the one solenoid valve, then you know, if the other solenoid valve didn't have a code, then you know it's an electrical, could be a wiring issue. It's And I checked both solenoids, and the spec was 23 ohms on the coil, and both solenoids were the exact same, so didn't think it was going to be a solenoid issue. And so what I ended up doing was I pulled the panels out, same as the 470. You got to pull behind the seat, all the panels, to get to the main controller. And it's back behind the seat. So you get to the main controller and you unplug. I have it all wrote down. You unplug the plug that runs to the wiring, runs to that solenoid valve, and you can check for continuity through the wiring from the plug to the main controller and make sure that your wires are connected. And on one of the pins it was not, which means I would have a broken wire somewhere, no connection. So I ended up running an overlay wire along the harness from the plug down to that plug, and that fixed the code. So not into a controller issue on this one, luckily. And that fixed the code. I cleared the code, I ran the machine, it did a regen on its own and successfully completed it and was out of D rate, and the machine has been running fine since. So yeah, hope you, just gonna fill in what I had done to this machine, although I didn't make a video of it. I wish I did, the diagnosing, but yeah, things you run into in the field.